Hiya, I'm Hinny and welcome to my amateur astrology channel. Hope you're having a lovely Friday free day as we continue to trudge in Cappy season. Tomorrow, or Saturday, the day of Saturn, will be amazing and magical, I am sure. But anyway, this video is another on my to-do list. On the black moon Lilith in the birth or the natal chart, and how this shows how we run away. And this is going to be, I think, part one of 3 parts for this series. So according to medium.com, the astronomical definition of the black moon Lilith is, and I quote, a mathematical point in space, an invisible center of gravity pulling at the moon as it goes around the earth, and which the moon aligns with once a month when it is furthest away, at its apogee. Archetypically speaking, we have the story of Lilith, after which this point in the birth chart is named, which, if you want, you can Google and look more into. Even if you're not familiar with the Lilith story, think of this placement simply as a representation of how you run away or how you rebel. This placement shows us how you may have been abused as well, and so fled from or resisted that abuse. It shows how you have been imprisoned perhaps, or a slave to something. Now you do need to calculate your birth chart to find your Lilith, and make sure that the calculator does include Lilith, as some don't. I like to use astrotheme.com, which automatically should show Lilith as a silver colored moon crescent atop a cross. A sign where you have Lilith, for example, if you have it in Gemini, this tells you how you run away. And the house where you have Lilith, for example, you have it in the first house, shows us what themes and lessons you may be running from, or the themes and lessons that might cause you to run away, or the themes, lessons, things contained within that house that might try to imprison you. Some astrological interpretations of Lilith seem to demonize this placement. In this video, however, in this series, I seek to show how Lilith represents the importance of running away when the time or situation actually calls for it. Think of Lilith as empowering you at times, to no longer wash someone's dishes. Basically, this is the analogy I'm going to use for this 3-part series, washing someone's dishes. Perhaps you washed your partner's or your roommates or your teenage child's dishes once, twice, maybe 3 times even or more, without getting a single thanks from them. Perhaps you didn't expect this anyway at first. You did it out of love, out of circumstance, because you were washing your own dishes anyway, so why not? Why be spiteful, right? Or you did it because you gave them the benefit of the doubt. Yet over time, they start actually handing you their dishes to wash, telling you to wash them, not even washing them even if you've been at work all day and they've been on their arse in bed all day. They may even start treating you like a servant, piling more duties onto you. They may even hurt or belittle you somehow. Can you see? It's time to run away. If you can't see, then to some extent, you've lost yourself and your freedom. You've lost your self-respect, and your sun, S-U-N, is probably screaming to be noticed and fulfilled. Lilith, out of control, however, can also make you run away from anyone and anything you don't want to feel subservient to. At the drop of a hat, abandoning responsibilities and running off into the darkness to pleasure yourself in a myriad of ways. Let's start with Lilith in Scorpio. Now, I, for example, have my Lilith in my 5th house in Scorpio. Lilith is actually, for me, conjunct my natal Juno. But the 5th house, very briefly, governs things such as casual sex, personal authenticity, and risk-taking. So again, look at the house that you have Lilith in as well. And Juno, if you're interested, represents our ideal or sort of long-term partner, our committed partner. You should consider anything that your natal Lilith might also be conjuncting or aspecting in your natal chart. But anyway, if we mix Lilith with Scorpio, and in my case, or maybe even in your case, the 5th house, then you get someone who finds sexual abandon fun. Someone who could have sexual obsessions or fixations that they run to. Someone who runs away if their sense of authentic self is being suffocated. Lilith in Scorpio in the 5th house can produce someone also who didn't have casual sex in their teenage years or early adulthood. And as they get through their 20s and into their 30s, they kind of refuse to let life restrict their sexuality any longer, almost starting to play a game of intense sexual catch-up. Scorpio is associated with meaningful sex and sex as a symbiotic bond. And someone with Lilith in Scorpio just generally might run away or rebel if the relationship is kind of devoid of sex, and or if the sex is boring. Probably your childhood or earlier years somehow involved suffocation of your sexuality or of something else taboo, which you may now run to with glee in your adulthood. Lilith in Scorpio can be someone who runs away also to the occult, to shadow work, or to even their psychologist friend, whenever they're feeling this suffocation. This act of running away can be very secretive, obsessive, even leading to paranoia. By running away to these things, they might also find deep, real truths and start to feel the reality of power games that they're involved with, or the reality of control, or the reality that they need to know of conquering fear through actually releasing things, releasing people, releasing situations, pain. More generally, the Lilith in Scorpio person may run away or rebel through socially withdrawing, securing themselves in some private fortress, even if that fortress can only be a mental one. Lilith in Scorpio is kind of like, if you're not going to do your own dishes, I'm going to go out for a secret hookup, or I'm going to dive into some Kendall Ray true crime videos and just cut you off, or I'm going to Google all the ways to manipulate you, my partner, into doing the dishes. That's very Lilith in Scorpio. The Lilith in Sagittarius person is one of the 3 signs. This is one of the 3 placements, actually, I personally would say where you're most likely to readily embrace and unleash Lilith. Britney Spears, for example, and Donald Trump have this placement. Both Lilith and the Sagittarian archetype are familiar with running away. They are both passionately concerned about their freedom. If Sag is associated with such archetypes as the horse, the centaur, the archer, then Lilith in Sag is like someone ready to buck and go if you try it, or someone ready to shoot you down if need be. Being in a yang fire energy, Lilith might also be willing to physically attack you, to blurt out screams, to let them go, or to happily, readily spell out for you what they will not put up with. In extreme cases, this person might shoot or stab or spit, or otherwise seriously go on the offensive if a partner or someone else is somehow suffocating them. More generally though, the Lilith in Sag person may go on like a sudden trip just to get away. They might binge on something because Sag is ruled by Jupiter. This is expansion and going over the top, going overboard, exaggerating. So binging on like snacks, alcohol, parties, just to escape. They might be the type to suddenly flip as well and like go for a long walk or a run, but before they buck and before they run away, it's highly likely that their oppressor will be bombarded with questions. Sag energy is curious and wants to know why. Lilith in Sag is like, if you don't do your dishes, I'm gonna slap you. Or if you don't do these dishes, I'm gonna straight up ask you, what on earth are you playing at? Are you an idiot? If you don't do these dishes, I'm gonna leave you just as soon as I've called this Uber for myself. Now, if you have Lilith in Capricorn, running away and rebelling isn't so much an explosive thing. Hillary Clinton, for example, has this placement. Lilith, it could be said, doesn't get very far here. Or perhaps it could be said, she rarely gets out and away. Even where there are blatant betrayals and abuses, the Lilith and Capricorn person could still be very worried about their reputation. They may not feel they can run away or resist because they might have established something long-term with the person. They might have committed many hours or even years to some idea or thing or place, and so to now run away could make them look foolish. Capi energy is found in such archetypes as the builder, or the bearer of the burden, or the growing mountain. It's not an energy that we, or that sort of gels well with rebellion or with fleeing when the going gets tough. But this Lilith is by no means weak. She simply has to approach her escape differently. Think of a besieged queen who must conservatively strategize, waiting for the exact time to do a runner. People with this placement may continue to uphold a facade of a happy relationship, a strong marriage, a strong company or enterprise, but deep down they have concluded that something is over and something must be done. They may stay in a relationship or marriage, but already have someone they actually love or want to be with on the side. They may be, making very tough, slow steps to dismantle something with as little publicity or harm as possible. They could be the quiet divorce type. They may pay people off just to get away from the problem, pay you off. They may force themselves to stay in contracts because they know the contract ends on a certain date anyway. They may, in extreme cases, prefer to have someone else or a convenient external circumstance deal with their oppressor. And that's very classic yin Capi boss style right there. Lilith in Capricorn is like, if you don't want to do your dishes, let us hire someone who will, while I start to be at home less and slowly, very slowly, fade out of your life through the quasi-guise of my busyness. Finally, for part 1 of this series on Lilith, Lilith in Aquarius is actually the second of the 3 signs that I think can most readily embrace this Lilith energy. Aquarius is associated with rebellion, being unpredictable, and a sort of automated detachment. Amy Winehouse, she had this placement. If someone with this placement feels their way of thinking is being suffocated, best believe they'll drop you faster than a Sag. They might still interact with you though, but don't think that they'll ever let you encroach on them again. With Lilith here, the individual is primed to blast away anyone or anything that gets in the way of their freedom and their progressive mind. This is an excellent placement to unlock if you struggle with oppression, because you're likely to be able to find genius, unique ways to eventually defeat your oppressors and find yourself kind of catapulted a million miles away from them, light years away from them. I personally believe that this can also be the most dangerous Lilith placement. If you are the type to always put your freedom and your individuality first, to sort of be careful what you wish for potential here, where too much running away will make others view you as stuck up or a lost cause or someone who is impossible to access. Lilith could find herself without allies due to running away to pleasure herself with all that confirms her uniqueness, or with all that is cool and new, which is, I would say, an Aquarian energy kind of gone wrong. The individual could become highly reckless, rebelling against anything and everything just for the sake of it, and maybe just for the sake of being photographed or documented doing so, like a kind of a little Lilith rebel. Lilith in Aquarius is like, if you don't want to do your dishes, then I don't want to do mine either. And if you don't want to do the dishes, let us just smash the dishes. Who needs dishes? If you don't want to do your own dishes, I'm already out of here. Bye. That's Lilith in Aquarius. And that is part 1 of this 3-part series. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next part.